Good, all right. I call the meeting of the Facilities Committee of the Keith Benson School Board of Directors. What is today, August 22nd, 2023 meeting to order. We have a rather fairly long agenda here today with some good discussion items on there. First item on the agenda listed there is we're revisiting an item that we brought to our attention, I think, way back in March or more back in the late winter, early spring, by some folks from the Homewood Homestead Estates area about some water runoff concerns that they had back in the condos back in the back part of the development. And at that time, there was some representatives from township and from some of the residents from in there came and brought this to our attention. And what we decided to do at that point was to have Rob go and make arrangements for a survey to be done, see exactly where the lines were and so on, if it's our responsibility to address that or if it's something else. So I guess we've had that done in the meantime. So at this point, I guess we need to turn it over to Rob, apparently, so he can fill us in on what they found and okay, we want to go from there.
All right, I did had yours survey it. We looked when we came up with the line kind of goes at a diagonal angle across there. Liv's shaking her head because she walks out there quite a bit. At one point, it's about 9.5 feet off of the corner of that building down there. Obviously, when the developer developed it, he went into our property a little bit and excavated. Could have been where my people say that's where a ditch and stuff was. It's neither here nor there at this point, but there's been some dirt moved around back there. But the bottom line is we're still sheet flowing water off of our property onto theirs, and that's how we're permitted. There's nothing that I can find that we're doing wrong. We're not point discharging anywhere. We're just sheet flowing water. So I really would probably let it up this committee to, if they want me to do anything further. I don't think we have anything further in it at this point, but really the committee's decision if they want me to pursue anything.
So you're saying that it's not our responsibility or it's not our fault.
From what I can see and everything that's out there, we permitted all the work that we've done in the district with our fields, the stuff that was done with track, all those kind of things. And we're not in any violation of anything with conservation or anything like that. Our water that's just a low area. So the water runs off of our property, it runs down there. My opinion, they should have built it up a little bit. It wasn't built up. So obviously these homeowners, and I feel for the homeowners because they get water in their basement. They're getting water in their first floor. If there is, might not even be a basement in those, but they're getting water in the first floor. I don't think so.
So if I could just recap what you're saying, if this committee wishes to recommend something to the full board that we do take some kind of action, although we don't believe that it's our responsibility to have to take action, even though it is a problem. But you can still choose if you want to be a good neighbor or if you want to have further conversations with the homeowners association there to see what possible solutions would they come up with or recommend to us and ask us if we'd be willing to support. But at this point, I feel like it goes back into their court. But again, Rob and I discussed this earlier in the week with Wanda. We just wanted to come to you and say, look, where do you want us to go with this? Because we're at a dead end until you give us direction.
I think the question I had, if I remember correctly, they were claiming there was a ditch that came down and the ditch through the years has been filled in. So the water's done. Is that ditch cleaned up enough?
There is no ditch that I could find out there. But what I did ask, and this is completely hearsay, but when I did ask people that have been here a long time, when they told me that when they put that development in, the bulldozer was over on that side. So if there was any ditch there, the developer filled it in when he graded that backyard, because he graded him a yard, which is actually our property. At that point, we didn't stop it, we didn't say anything, I don't know if we knew where the line was, but. You know, there's not much down there that is their backyards, the way the building sits. It's our line goes at an angle, so the house on the furthest end closer to your way, Joni, that house has the biggest backyard and they get smaller as they go down to. They neck down to 9.5 feet. My guess is it was probably a 10-foot setback. They didn't even make the setback. And I unless we want to spend a lot of money down there.
So if you were them, could they put in a French drain, or they can't even because it's not even far enough from our property line unless we allow them? to do
Well,
that?
they have 10 feet, they can dig around their building and put some kind of a ditch or a drainage thing to catch any water that would come in prior to that. But I believe if we go down there and move any earth, we're gonna have to pull another NIPD's permit or modify the NIPD's permit that we currently have. And it's gonna be costly. I mean, because we're gonna have to, they'll resurvey everything that we did and everything that was compiled in that original permit for
But
the
we already
track.
paid for it.
We already paid for, we're fine. So I'm really kind of looking for you guys, you know,
I think the response, as long as that they were talking about, it's not there anymore, so it's not a responsibility. So it goes back to the developer of the property.
does.
Dawn.
Well, yeah, and you're
Then it
exactly
goes back to the homeowner.
right. It goes to,
So would you like us to meet with the homeowners and tell them what we found and see what? If anything they're asking of you now, because of now, you don't have anything
I would
to
say that
consider.
that would be a good courtesy to do that. I mean, we just go back to them and say, we have looked into it. We, paid for survey, we asked to see exactly where the lines were. This is what we found and see what their reaction is. And I just don't know that we want to get into spending thousands more dollars on a problem that really isn't ours.
that's kind of where Dr. Martin and I,
3,500.
I think it was closer to 4, but yeah, 3,500 to
And I think
4,000.
they need to know that.
You know,
We
we
have-
surveyed it. You know, we're well away from them, and water's actually gonna flow that way.
Why don't we invite this township supervisors
Yeah.
to that meeting too, because they were part of.
Yes.
Kathy Ryan was here.
It was Dave Rickel, Bill Council, and Chuck Ryan.
But he's,
That's Chuck Ryan can't come.
he's better placed.
Steve Giselli has a message in the meeting for him today, so I'll mention it to him as well, but, Wanda, if we could, rely on you to work with Robin and maybe get that scheduled and get the right people there. We'll circle up with the group and just tell them where we're at right now and see if they plan to make any further request of you. Now we can invite them to another facility committee meeting where they could pitch their request.
Right.
So, work?
And I do feel really bad for them because they're dealing with different supervisors and back in the day. You know this better than anybody. Everyone just sort of like built stuff. Even though there was rules and regs, they sort of just built it. And now this is the aftermath and it's highly unfortunate.
I just don't want us to be painted as the bad guys here. Because
No, we're not. No one's the bad. Unfortunately, that group is gone.
Yeah, I mean, in
That
the eyes of
group's
the
gone.
homeowners, they're, they need to know that exactly what Rob just, how he explain it to them the same way. The fact that it's really not our responsibility. Anybody should be going back on the contractors that put that in and did it pretty poorly.
And the oversight from the people that were supposed to be overseeing the
Right.
building project, but it's all right, so it's a wash.
But-
It's horrible. but-
I feel like I have consensus from the committee
Yeah.
members of the direction that we're going. So, in the sake of time, we'll just move to the next item. if that works.
That's fine.
And Rob, they put a stake on my property. Can I pull it now? Cause I
Yeah,
do
it
have
was
a
a
pin there.
reference point.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
I get it. Instead of going by the event, can we just jump ahead and do the Liberty Park project then? If they would guess or something. We need to leave it on.
Yeah, I'd like to do it now. There's the presentation. It doesn't matter, we don't have to stick strictly to the event. It's fine.
So how do we
So
want,
you emailed it this morning and I have been going nonstop, so.
or I didn't know if I could share my screen or not with the Zoom.
Are you logged into the Zoom?
I am not. So probably I can't.
Can I give him permission to do that?
You may be able to, Patty, or I can send you
Ah.
this thing, you can pull it up, share your screen.
Where would I do that?
It's not that many slides today, so yeah, maybe if we do that, then I can just, we can just advance the slides.
And Rob, that was interesting too, like, when you're going on
Can
the,
we do another one while we're pulling this up? Sorry, do the
Sure.
other item
Yeah,
while we're
you can-
doing that.
Yeah, while they're getting all the technology stuff here. We move down, I think we can do that playground fence pretty quickly.
So the Woodward Playground set fence is something that's been on our radar. Rob has gotten some pricing on that. It came in at $3,100 as opposed to the 40,000 that 30.
31,000.
$31,000.
yeah, we know.
3,100 dump on it.
Yeah, John.
Sorry,
Be a
sorry.
bargain.
I'll sign it right now.
Patty, I sent that to
Um,
you.
Oh, okay. I think I have it that he can share, but.
Okay, so then, basically what with the quote is there, we'd like to move forward with that project. It would come out of capital. Originally, we were going to do that out of PCCD money. But we used the PCCD, the doors were more expensive, or there were more doors than we originally anticipated, so that was if there's PCCD money left over. I do think that the Woodward fence is a priority, for school safety. If you recall, we did added a class for autistic students in that elementary school, and if you're familiar with, some of the needs of autistic students in general, there's an elopement issue. They need to go outside for recess, but and they are in the back of the building, but that whole area is not all fenced in, it's partially fenced in.
Mhm.
So Rob and I walked with Rolanda last year, we kind of got an estimate of where we wanted to put the fencing. It also finishes up the idea from when we gave that property to Woodward Township. This kind of just completes that whole thing, and we'd like to move forward with that because of the situation with the students that are there now, and their higher degree of need. So if you're okay with that, we would like to move that forward to the next full board meeting, not in September, for the full board to consider that project.
So,
Is there a lead time getting material?
Yeah, we have to give them the PO. I told him I want to try and accomplish it this fall. I want to accomplish it this fall. And he said there wouldn't be a problem. 2 weeks, it seems like where the fencing is doing right now for the chain link. That's a chain link, vinyl coated.
And it's in the back of the building and it matches what's already there.
that was I was assuming.
I
it
knew
says
you were
it's-
gonna ask that.
There
Okay,
you
well, that
go.
was,
We anticipated the question.
well, honestly, I was assuming, but we know what
Well,
that
the-
means.
The
Thank you.
township used a vinyl up their side, but I'm thinking because we had so much chain link already, I had them pricing this chain link. I think it's
It'll last longer.
And
It's not pretty, but.
well,
it'll
but the other
last.
thing is we have the bears down there,
Yeah.
so that I think the chain link will keep the bears out more than the vinyl will.
Bears.
Yeah, actually, I was down there the other day and they drug a bag up from the garbage. It was in the middle of the yard.
We have bears in Mill Hall, so they're
But-
everywhere.
But no,
It's part of the neighborhood.
I think that,
I
That's the
think
best.
That's it's a safety issue. We forgot to.
Because it might be a problem working on it during school hours or anything.
yeah, I'll work with Rolanda on that. She'll just, she'll move the kids to the side or whatever. I usually have no problem when I do anything down there. Rolanda and those teachers they're great. They just tell me, say, whatever you need, we'll take care of it. So.
Yeah, any further questions on that?
No, that's great. That's a
Okay.
really good thing. And something for the newspaper later, that's safety. That's great.
Okay.
All right, now we'll get back. I think Jeff's ready to go now. with
Okay.
His presentation, so turn it over to him.
Okay. We've got about 14 slides, so not a lot to present this today. I'm going to try to be concise about it. So if we can go to the next slide. So I guess we can just work with this instead of going to the overall presentation mode, if that's fine by you.
Can we just slide the
That's all I have.
names down to the bottom?
I
Or-
made them smaller on mine, Elizabeth, but they're not leaving that
Okay.
screen for
If
some
you could
reason.
Well,
Present, will it? Patty, if you hit
We have
present.
the presentation button right there,
I know it's hard to see that little tiny book.
this little one right there.
This one,
One more to the left.
that one?
Yeah, that's better to see even if they're on the side. I don't think we can get rid of them because of the.
If we do have a couple slides,
That's okay.
we'll figure it out if they're overlapping.
Text is no big deal. No big deal.
Oh, here, I can do it up here.
You can drag it.
There.
Beautiful.
Better-
Okay,
There we go.
gotta love technology.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about site plan a little bit today, floor plan, current exterior elevations, I think partly because I saw some emails through the summer, so I wanted to answer some questions. A lot of the discussion today is really going to be focused on a cost discussion with all of you. We had had a meeting about a month ago about the current market conditions, and the administration's comment was, let's take it to the facilities and have a discussion with everybody. Okay, so I'm sort of holding that till we get through some of these first items, and then we're going to also touch base just on the schedule. The short of that is we're still on schedule. I'll give a few nuances to that when we get to that. So jumping to the site plan update.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, this is great.
Okay.
So this is really, this is pretty straightforward. There had been a lot of concerns, both from facilities group as well as just discussions of what were any on-site conditions that we were dealing with. And also there is some freshwater streams that this site ties to. So what is the implications of that? Ultimately, we were able to address all of those with just some very minor changes to the building. And it's might be a little bit hard to see here on the screen, but this dotted tan line or orange line was the old footprint of the building. And all we did was we rotated it slightly. We were having large discussions that we need to reorganize the building, and the civil engineer came back and said, if you just rotate the building, roughly 4 degrees or so, it addresses the whole problem. What that
Great.
did was, it was just this little bit, this outrigger right here that was becoming a problem with approvals, which would have triggered much longer site approvals. So we addressed that. We were also able to address the stormwater on the site. I know there's also been some questions about some of the underground piping at the front of the site. All those concerns have been addressed by the civil engineer. So at this point, the site approvals seem moving forward smoothly. I would note, and we'll get to it a little. Maybe I'll talk about it now with schedule. Project's on schedule to go out to bid at the end of September. The only nuance to that is, which happens very often, is both building permits as well as land development approvals won't be completely in place when we go out to bid.
How can someone bid if those aren't completed yet? Won't that make someone nervous?
No, and actually, it has always been that way over the years. Building permit, you simply can't
Okay.
submit until you're
Okay.
right. Essentially, when the building or when the drawings are 100%,
Okay.
you submit at the same time as you bid the project. It's always been a difficulty, but it just is a nuance of the construction
thank
market
you.
in Pennsylvania.
Good.
Now, what we do try to do is, for instance, meet with the code officials ahead of time just to see, are there any big concerns? Knock on wood, we're not as concerned here with it being new construction. A lot of times with ad renos, that's when code becomes a little bit more gray. As well with the site approvals, what we are trying to do is have those discussions early and anticipate some of the concerns that they may have. Now, I want to be careful of
Go ahead. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just us.
it's just been difficult to contact the approval agencies in that area, and that's really been the challenge. The civil engineer has repeatedly been trying to contact people.
You're talking about the supervisors?
The township, so which is, I believe they have limited hours. And response time. has to
We
be-
have connections with your county trouble.
So
Let
that
us know,
might-
we'll get
yeah.
through it for you.
So I guess that's what I was trying to say.
So let me know what you need to know.
Okay, so we are making progress with that. We just, that's probably our biggest concern is their availability right now.
We did meet with on site with the some of the civil people or the people for water, sewer, and some of that, the employees or whatever. Everything seems pretty good with that. There doesn't seem to be any hiccups with those guys. They seem to be on board with this.
Yeah, the two extremes is sometimes you get municipalities that are extremely litigious And that drags out the process, and here it's just,
The opposite.
it's, you know, just.
Well, they have limited
staff,
hours. I think that's
Limited
the-
hours,
Mhm.
which is affecting things. Okay. So, but we're trying to work through that. Next slide. And next slide. So I'm going to. Just for my notes. So I'll talk about a few things. Just the current floor plan of the building. But I'm also going to touch a little bit on safety and security and building breakdown for efficiency, and answer a couple of questions I've heard. Specifically, I didn't want to have a slide for safety and security and disclose everything that we're doing with the building, and more have a general discussion with all of you for security purposes. So really, we have locked down the floor plan for the entire building at this point, and you're going to see this in some of the renderings of the exterior building, but very straightforward of the 2 classroom wings, which you've seen before of the building. We do have the ability to lock down each of those wings of the building with your your media center, multi-purpose library at the center, art, music, and then cafeteria. Kitchen, boiler room, and multi-purpose room at that location. And we've really gotten down to all the specifics, working out layouts in all the classrooms, casework. We've had multiple meetings with the staff and sign-offs. So pretty much, you know, we're locked down as far as completing final documents at this point. Safety and security, we met with the administration, had some discussions. We are sort of incorporating a series of protocols in the building. One, I'm going to start sort of at the main entrance of the building. There had been a discussion about the amount of glass in front of the building in an email. That is actually very purposeful for security. It's a premise called natural surveillance. You want to have glass at your main entrance so that somebody who's approaching the front apron of the building, the concrete approach, when somebody sees glass, they assume somebody's on the inside watching them, whether they are not, vice versa. And it also does give them the reception, the ability that they can very purposely watch people approach. We have been looking at the materials, the type of glazing, security protocols of how doors activate at that main entrance of the building without getting into specifics. Pass-through windows, also incorporating security measures that you have instituted at your other buildings. We don't want this building to just be unique. The next is, it's not just the main entrance and the classroom doors. We talked about a stage access control through the building. And what that means is it's sort of a 3-part getting to a classroom where the students are, as well as in the more public areas, the ability that students and staff, or whoever, could exit an area very quickly. So the classroom, you have more of a lockdown scenario where in more of a public area, you want to be able to disperse people, get them out if something would happen. At the same time, we're trying to do things which you've seen on some tours, visibility into the restrooms, keeping sinks on the outside. And it's always a fine line, sort of being able to view into the bathrooms, but not see, you know, where students are utilizing facilities, so that children are getting in trouble, things like that. At that age, it's not as much of large trouble, it's more of, you know, just children being children. But that gives Brett and his team the ability to really monitor the building, as well as being able to go down hallways and monitor what's going on in the classroom. We also have breakout space, very purposeful in the hallways, but having glazing between the classrooms and those spaces, so that, you know, both administration can have views, but also multiple staff are looking into areas, so wherever a student is, they're always being under supervision.
So I could just add, I just wanted to let everyone know, even though we can't discuss all those pieces publicly for obvious reasons, that I thought it was really helpful, that when we were in the conversations with Jeff and your background in school safety and explaining the rationale for this or for that, and then also statistical chances of risk versus, you know, everything can be a safety concern, but when you look at through statistics, it helped us give recommendations on what we felt was absolutely necessary to add and what we could live without adds. So when this package is being priced for you, we did consider all those pieces and took a lot of the recommendations of Mr. Straub because of his background in school safety and those in the architecture. So he gave us a lot of options to think about and also made recommendations based on what could be fiscally responsible and provide the best protection. Does that make
Do you want me to
sense?
give some of those just in general?
I guess it's up to you
That's
guys
sort
if
of
you want
generic.
any examples of that, but I thought it was the biggest part of the value of the conversation, which also informed us on some other things that we were considering with different elementary schools.
So
The only thing I'd say about doing that is be careful that we have people
Right.
online with us today, so.
this is some more general information. It's not
It's like the
specifically for your
standard
building.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
know.
here's some general facts
Yeah.
nationally. And I've had this discussion many times with school districts. An example would be, I was meeting years ago with a major for the police department, in Prince George's County, which is essentially the suburbs of Washington, DC. And he was very well intentioned. We also had EMS services. We had all first responders. But the problem was they were only concerned with an active shooting scenario. So these are some of the statistics that are out there, and it helped change the conversation because that was their focus initially. And we said, well, please understand, the chance of a homicide in the United States in school is 1 in a million. Is the general statistics, but it's about only 8% are utilizing a weapon or either a gun or a rifle. So it's a 1 in 10 million chance. The chance of being struck by lightning in the United States is 1 in a million. Okay, so it's 10 times more likely to be struck with lightning to be in an active shooting scenario. Now, that doesn't mean that we discount that occurring, because what happens when there's a thunderstorm? We all take cover. That's the responsible thing to do. So we are planning for those active shooter scenarios. But as was stated,
You don't need bulletproof glass.
our conversation was, because we've had scenarios where everybody wants to lock down everything in the building. We said, well, you have that 1 in 10 million, which you do have to plan for. But the more important is the factor that 40 to 60%, depending on the study, students in the United States will be bullied sometime in their K-12 education. And that's why we're focusing much more of views into,
The social climate.
yes, restrooms, having all the open areas, because where does bullying happen now? Yeah, places that teachers can't see into. So we're
Right.
trying to remove all those barriers for you.
Great.
And then balancing.
I just wanted you to have some confidence in the fact that we didn't just
No, wait.
blow through that, but we really had some deep conversations statistically about things like that, where we should be really maybe more importantly focusing our energies as opposed to planning for any possible scenario.
And what we also said to the district was, so we went through every measure, whether it's doors, so on, without getting any more specifics for you today. But what I also said was, it has to be a unique conversation with every district, because every district and community is different. And so we sort of went through what do you feel is appropriate for you, and then what may you also institute throughout your other buildings in the district or already do.
It seems like ours is more the social thing versus the other thing.
Well, and that's,
So
and unfortunately,
social and
that's,
bullying is
yeah, and unfortunately, that's what,
the culture.
I mean, we all know that's what does lead eventually, unfortunately, to the other goals. That very often you hear that they were bullied and treated improperly over the years. So creating that environment that students and staff feel safe, comfortable, and I don't want to say home, but it does have a home that, that feels a place that they belong. Okay. So, another thing related to the building breakdown, we have really looked throughout the building how we could be more efficient and tight with the square footage. Really, at this point, without removing program, the building is as efficient as possible. We're going to talk in one of the renderings about the main entrance, and I want to focus on this because when we get to the cost discussion, we're trying to be not only in floor plan, but we are having a focal point at the main entrance. But I want to point out This area is 2,000 square feet. It represents 4% of the overall building. So while we do have a nice entry component, that is a very small percentage of the building, where the majority of the rest of the building is low slope building, as cost effective as we can in construction type, as well as the classroom wings being very, very straightforward in discussions with both the team and structural engineer project. Next slide. Okay, so current exterior elevation. So that shows the main entry there. So again, it's got a very prominent. It's very clear to people where you come to the main entrance building, but that represents a small amount of building. So if you see the classroom wing off to the left, or the multi-purpose gymnasium, stage, everything is more sort of very straightforward, very efficient construction. Low slope roofs. I always say low slope, not flat roofs. Essentially, they're flat, but they have an 1/8 inch per inch slope, so they will drain properly, but very cost effective. Also, obviously, you can see walking up the building, when I made the comment earlier, the apron, that somebody can't just come directly up to the building, that they sort of have to walk, sort of sidewalk approach, so that you have some time to anticipate somebody walking the building if they are a problem. And then types of glazing that we're utilizing in the building, so that people can see in and see out for that natural surveillance component. Next slide.
Ma'am? Oh,
Yes, definitely.
okay. Your abilities are beautiful.
Okay.
And I've said this before, we're a low income district. That looks grandiose to me.
Mhm.
I don't understand why, for consistency, ease of materials and cost, we just don't use the same main entrance style that we're gonna use for the Central Mountain Middle School that we use here. If I was outside of Philly, I would expect something like this. I'll tell you right now, I've had a lot of bad comments from the people that we're going more and more and more into debt. And I'm not saying it's necessary. I'm not. I'm just saying we can't afford that. And everyone here is going to say, no problem, we like the way it looks. I'm saying we can't afford this. I don't vote for that. And I also don't think we need a stage. This is, again, if they need a stage, they can travel to a different school. But it is beautiful. But it should be just look consistent with Central Mountain Middle School, same materials, easy peasy. And if you're gonna do anything grandiose, it would be, of course, in the classrooms.
Well,
That's not gonna make the
we're here.
kids.
See, my
You better-
problem with what she's saying is, I don't really think it's that grandiose to use her term. I think, and to build something like we're gonna build Central Mountain Middle School, which is 75 years old, probably. See, why would we build something that looked that retro? See, I think it's a modern look, it's a clean look, I like the design of it.
Oh, it's
I don't-
beautiful.
I don't think it's
beautiful.
really that outrageous to put in that small community. I think it's gonna look nice. It's gonna be a centerpiece. It's gonna be the focal piece. It's gonna be what the people or what we deserve, I think.
So ultimately, I will.
About, the architectural style that you chose.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
also
understand
is
the
within the building.
So let me try to answer a couple questions, but
Sure.
ultimately you are the client. So I'm gonna let you as a group give me direction how to proceed. So it was a reason on the previous slide, I was trying to be very direct and state, because we very often have this discussion with owners of, yes, it has a nice presence for the entrance. We are trying to create a focal point. So it's very clear where the entry is. We're a building 50 years ago, you walk up and you'd see 4 different entrances and you didn't know where to go. While it does look nice, it represents 4% of the building. It's a very small percentage of the building. It's essentially the size, that whole lobby area is the size of 2 classrooms. But ultimately, that's your decision. Some of the style has been with renderings and things that we were talking about with Bucktail originally. That's how some of this discussion originated, even with the materials, with the knotwood metal siding. And then just trying to create that sort of focal point that sort of played off of a sort of more of a barn style agrarian architecture. But again, that's how we came up with the concept, and then we forwarded, I think, a few months ago to
So, I
administration.
guess the
So
only thing
I'll
I
leave
would
that-
say is, Elizabeth, and just for point of clarification, what I hear you saying is you believe that the perception of the community will be that it's too grandiose because you haven't seen dollar figures attached to it, or that bid is a different option. So it'd be difficult to say that we can't afford it if you haven't seen that packaging. So I guess I'm saying for clarification, you're saying it's a perception that this is a grand entry that we're being wasteful with taxpayer dollars.
I would say that a K-4 school in a low-income district should reflect that.
You want it to be just a plain Jane piece of garbage that, I mean, it just looks like another run-of-the-mill building. Is that what you're saying? I mean, that's what I'm hearing. You don't want to, if you're gonna spend this kind of money on it, then you want it to look nice. I don't think that you want to slap a plain stupid entrance there like we had at the middle school, which was built 60 or 70 years ago. Then I just don't get it. I mean, you want, so this is gonna be the focal point of that whole community. And they're gonna use that. When we go to the stuff about the stage. That's not really gonna be used by the school, and by the kids. That's gonna be used by the community for different things. And I don't think if we redesigned that front, took away the stage, we're gonna save that much money. And I don't understand.
Well, I don't think this, the front actually involves the stage or the gymnasium. And I don't know how you can compare it to the middle school, when I believe we're redoing the entrance to the middle school, aren't we?
They're both single-story buildings, and that increases the air capacity in the building, which means there's more space that has to be heated and cooled. I don't want to go into all the details. I
Okay.
gave my viewpoint.
No, and so where I'm coming from as the architect, obviously you are a board and an administration. We presented an option to you a few months ago and understand that, multiple people are gonna have different directions. This is where we stand with the design, and it's really at the point
We
now.
can take in the feedback and then adjust from there, but I will say
Yeah,
moving
adjust.
forward, if we could just let him finish his presentation. Were some things that we did discuss about what we could price as alternates with the price of the building coming in higher, because of course the economy is dictating some of that. So if we just let you finish,
Yep.
we can have that
Yeah, and
conversation
so-
at the end.
Okay, so, and in fact, we had a discussion that the stage component could be an alternate on bid day. Because we're gonna show you some.
Worst case
market
scenario,
conditions
that
right
can
now.
always be added later.
That's why we would.
Yeah,
but
that's why
we would
that's
put it
where
as
I
an
was-
alternate.
If
So-
the economy gets better and the housing and that tax
So-
base goes up,
So tentatively, the stage is going to be an alternate.
Great.
And then that will be a decision for all of you to make on bid day as a board. And it'll either be part of the project or not part of the project. So, and we are looking for other savings in the project. I will note that we're being. as
I know
efficient as
you
we
are.
can,
No,
so-
it's,
Or, no, I just want you to know that
I know you
um,
are.
we're not gonna have a lot of alternates because we really have tried to pare down the building so far. But we are looking at
What
opportunities that
matters
we
to
can.
me is that it's safe,
So-
it gives a good culture, and the kids get a great education.
Yep.
Everything else is a wish list.
Okay, so let's go, I think, 2 slides forward to the next. Okay, cost increase discussion, next slide. Okay, this is gonna be some of the tougher discussion
We'll see it.
of what's going on in the market right now. And I think all of us see this whether we're buying gas or going to grocery stores or anything. Construction costs have continued to escalate and they've continued to escalate further than we anticipated. This was some data that's come to us just in June. And it's a little hard to see at the bottom here, but this is a combination of a cost estimator that works throughout the United States, Ferrello estimating, but they're also pulling data from US Department of Commerce, Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, as well as a number of different agencies. So this is sort of a cross breadth of what's occurring in the market. And unfortunately, we all saw that post-COVID, there was the spike in the construction. And what everybody thought was that had occurred and then we had stabilized. But what we're starting to see is it has come down, but not as dramatically as everybody hoped. And so how to explain a couple of these charts is just this year, we've continued to, even with what had happened in the last 2 years, there's still, this year, there's 13.37% in inflation in non-residential construction. So commercial construction, school construction. As well, this marker, it's a little hard, but this sort of faint gray, it's actually a light blue line, represents, and this chat's right over, but it's the designator for K-12 construction market, okay? And the important takeaway for this is, this is what yearly inflation used to be.
Yeah.
Usually, yeah, hovering to the 2 to 4% mark, okay? And this is what's occurred sort of post-COVID. And so what everybody expected was that when it came up to this level, it was going to start to drop and it was going to come back down, but it has not. It's again mirroring what you're seeing at this designator. And the discussion we had with the administration was everybody's blaming COVID, but actually what it really steps back to is the 2008 recession. And what COVID was the trigger, unfortunately, for the economy to fix what had been occurring for really 12 plus years. That that essentially nationally, post the Great Recession, inflation had stagnated. And so companies could not increase costs because they were, frankly,
They were tired.
they were tied. An example would be 3 largest roofing manufacturers nationally all wanted to raise the price of roofing for years. And they were all waiting for the others to go, but nobody did. So there was no cost spike. And what happened? Roofing went up more than 200% in 2 years. Roofing's the worst example of fine.
Got all our roofs done before that.
Right, and you had something left over too.
And roofing used
We got lucky on
so
some
roofing
things.
used, for example, would be $10 to $12 a square foot. Roofing is now going on the order of magnitude of $26 to $30 a square foot. So there's substantial impact. Okay. So, and then this is also just Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is all commodities. So it's not just construction, but you can see the spike that occurred that, really occurred, sort of the stagnation over the years and the spike that's occurred. So next slide.
What's I noticed the dates on this, the data. Do we have anything that's more closer to August? Or are you waiting for the next quarter to end, or because that's January 2023? And we know that was when the height of.
This was published in June, and usually they're always
6 months.
6 months because they're
Okay, so we'll know more towards the end of the year.
He's bits of
Then-
projects though that they've analyzed some data on, and what statistics are showing and what the bids are coming in at are running pretty much similar. And
Okay.
that's data that's gathered nationally. This is something I always struggle with because I always take it kind of personal that, I bring this stuff back to you and the prices are high. I don't have any control over it, but everything that we do is driven off of this data that's here. I mean, that's how these companies are pricing it.
No, I appreciate it. I wish the finance committee, well, they can watch the recording tomorrow or whatever.
So, and probably as Rob just mentioned, me as an architect, the whole construction market, we take it personal too, because this has been a difficult discussion with owners the last few years. Because we did have that 2 to 4% inflation yearly, and you could almost bank on it. And it really helped with the estimating, and it's been very difficult to even grapple with what's occurring in the market. And what we have heard very clearly is the price is not coming back down. It's really a reset of the economy, and this will be
The new norm,
This will be the new norm permanently.
I heard that the first buyers, to build a brand new home used to be $250, then it went up to $325. Now it's at $450 for a basic box.
They're selling
Basic
8 of
box.
them a week in that development right next to University Park Airport. 450, 8 a week. It's crazy.
That's the price.
And yeah, and they're
That's the
selling them at
basic.
that. And they're selling them at that. I know. I
Basic.
watch it.
I can't even wrap my brain around that.
So what is the impact for this project? And so what I'm trying to show you on this screen is we have adjusted the budget for the new construction. And so maybe the key component is this number right here, okay? Because we are talking new construction. And there's a little bit of a, I hate to use the word, art form, or if you're trying to understand what will occur for the bidders moving forward, because even the bidders are going to have a large swing on the day between them. But what we did was this number went up by 10%. This number went up by 15% to create that range. We can try and guess what's in the market.
That's what square foot.
Per square foot, yes.
Would you be so kind, just for the other folks when they read that? So up in your row where it says SF and
Yes.
where it says unit cost, I don't think most people wouldn't
Okay.
understand what that.
Yeah.
Word it out, please.
So this is SF is square foot, so the size of the building, the amount of square feet of the building is 49,500 square feet, okay? Then the unit cost is the market conditions that we're seeing right now is $275 to $300 a square foot, okay? So you times those two and that creates the cost, the construction cost for the building. Now, I would note we are trying, and that's why we're doing this 10 to 15%. It's why we are looking very hard at finishes, why we're looking at alternates for the stage, things like that, how we address costs. We have seen other architecture firms that are using $350 to $400 a square foot.
That's what I was expecting.
I just watched the presentation, probably the one you saw that they said $400 a square
Yeah,
foot.
Belfont told me that they're at 400 square.
I
feet.
didn't
That's
use
what I
any
was-
names, but that's the presentation.
So, and I would note, there's a little bit of risk. There's a lot of risk for me to be using these numbers. Okay, we are trying to keep that cost down. So I can't just raise the number on you, $350 to $400 a square foot. I would assume that project that you're speaking about, I don't know the details. A lot of architects include site work within the cost per square foot. We do not. We break that component out separately because it's not every site is unique. So without knowing the details.
But that would be bid separate. That's not part of the main bid, right?
No, it will be part of the main bid. We just break it out we don't lump it into the
Square
cost.
footage price.
Because it's not, every site is different.
Okay, no, I've never
You
heard
can
it
have
that way.
You can have a new building and you could put it on one site and it's $2 million worth of site work and the next it's $6 million. So it's not apples. That's why we always break the site.
I'm glad, thank you.
Separate. That's maybe the only, without knowing that project,
Right.
that would
Could be a
be,
difference.
I can't imagine that they're truly at $400 a square foot. If they are, they're being extremely conservative. So.
Jeff, can you just talk a little bit more about the soft costs that reflect our conversation from
Yes.
the other week?
We are also showing 20% to 22%. What I'm going to be doing in the next month and what I stated to the school district is soft costs are everything from design fees, permitting, regulatory, tap-in fees,
Paperwork.
financing, all the paperwork. An example is we've had strong discussions about not having either construction or works. Building, the size of it doesn't necessarily demand that. Well, that's a large savings to the project.
They're just sitting there.
So we're going to be working to try to bring that cost down, or either bring the soft cost percentage down, or that gives us ability to just, have maybe a little bit more buffer in these numbers just to control market conditions.
we believe that we can, again, based on the size of the project as well as, Rob Pacella's skill set, and the fact that Brett, you know, as principal of the building, that between the two of them, that we could cut some of those, costs out of the soft cost area. And then just to give you a preview, like at finance committee meeting, one of the things that we had discussed before was that top line about the renovation. Remember the demolitions, just under $500,000. Is that something you may or may not want to, you may want to use your cash for that and not roll that into a bond and do that separately, or you may want to roll it into the bond. It just depends on interest rates and everything else and how that's going to work. And then again, the soft costs, do you want to pay your soft costs out separately using your cash and your reserves? Or money that you set aside? We've got the $2 million to talk about that was grant matched. Do you want to apply for the grant again? Do you want to reapply that to something else? And all that's going to play into your finance discussion. But for today, I think for the facility committee, you need to understand where are the different costs and what are the estimates, and then how we're trying to get some of those costs down and which things would come in as you could bid them as alternates. So again, I mean, Jeff, I even hate to take a guess at it, but I think we could I would like to work with you to chip a couple million down on this, just to get with eliminating some soft costs and bidding some alternates.
Does this include the site development amounts? Does it include what we've already been with? Or is that not included in here anywhere?
What you've already for,
Architectural,
yes,
okay.
yeah,
this
that, yeah,
includes
soft
those
costs. we
monies.
typically-
So some of those have already been paid out anyway, would not be in a bond.
Yeah, and that's what we don't always see on the architectural side, how you're financing the project. I've
Yeah,
seen
that's
some
what I'm
districts pay for all the soft costs.
Because that's what we
Yeah.
said, even if you decide you're not gonna bid this project and move forward, we still have incurred costs to get to this point. With the site development and the architectural work. So we're already down that road.
So difficult discussion.
No,
But
but it's
a
something we
discussion
had
that
to
needs to
have.
occur.
So the gymnasium that we have now is about the same size as this one?
This gymnasium's bigger because we decide what they said, the feedback is the current gymnasium doesn't meet parking.
But few less kids.
Let's get some, what,
Well, if the projected number keeps going, how much smaller is it? Just out of curiosity. I'm not
Alright,
putting you on the
so-
spot.
Gym
Let me jump
bigger
in
than this room,
on that
probably,
one.
I'm not sure.
I was taken aback when we first surveyed the building. It's the size of 1.5 classrooms.
Right. No, I've seen it. It's
I guess
tiny.
I've seen that
That's why
before,
this
but
seems so much bigger.
so, and we even did try to reduce the size of the gymnasium. I mean, that's something we could pull it back a little bit. But it's already not it's not a competition. It's
No, it's
appropriate.
kids. It's K through
appropriately
4.
sized for a K-4.
Well, but what's what I'm saying is if, like they've done at other schools, I'm okay with this, but I'm only one board member, okay? I'm okay with this. If the lot is graded properly, looking towards the future, if it was half as the size now, with the understanding that maybe in the future they want to add on there, it's pretty much ready to go. I'm just saying, I would be
what's the
flexible
parking
with that.
spaces?
What's that?
The auditorium or the gymnasium or something like that. I mean, as far as I'm
That-
just saying, because people are gonna freak when these, I know these
That-
numbers are good. You're good with
Well,
what's going on. But
I'm
people are
gonna
gonna be
be-
freaking out.
I want to be careful there because we even said to our staff, be careful of how you project or discuss this with them. You gotta be very truthful right now.
Absolutely.
Because I've had some young. Right. I've had some people say, oh, well, we're great with these numbers. And they want to tell the client that because you want to try to put everybody at ease. The market conditions are very difficult. We're all seeing that right
I
now.
know.
So we believe we can make it work with this, within this market.
Okay, we'll see what the feedback is.
But we're trying to be aggressive and reduce costs as much as we can.
We talked about some of these classrooms over here on the one wing too. Do we want to take those out and make them an alternate on the end for if we need additional later?
Go back
So we're
a number
looking
of
at all of
slides,
that.
Sort of thing.
Um, and, you know, I had said from the beginning, like, I know we're not building a regulation size gym here and that's okay. But I do think it would be irresponsible to build a gym the same size as what they have when they clearly told us it does not meet their needs.
And that was clear from the public meetings.
Thank you.
On the flip side of the coin, maybe there's a half middle reasonable, who knows? We'll see what.
This is the middle.
So
This
it's
is the middle. This is the middle.
because they wanted a
Page is
regular.
extra. This is the middle.
Page is extra.
So we have talked about taking the stage. We did talk about these two classrooms that we pull the building down. That has to do with some of the special education that you bring to the building. You know, and you get a price. And it doesn't hurt to get a price. An example is. And to Rob's comment, we just did a high school a month and a half ago, actually, I think we came up with this morning for the building. And we had whole bank of classrooms that were an alternate for the project. We had similar discussions with them. The building came in at $300 a square foot.
Okay,
Those classrooms came in at $110 a square foot for the alternate. And we looked at the owner, the owner saw it too, and said, we'll never get these for $110 in the future. So let's bid those as an alternate. And either it's gonna save you some money, or it's gonna let you justify to the public, hey, we did look at things for cost savings, but these were very cost effective, and because of that reason, we made them part of the project.
that's
Gives
why
you
the
more
creative, yes, because that would be lovely. That's
But-
very good. I love that creative thought.
But I
process.
will caution with that. I've seen it go $110 a square foot, but I've also seen it come in
Yeah,
at
the other
$600 a square foot
Right.
because they say, they're not gonna do this anyway, so that it's a gamble. It's like, it's like playing the lottery when you do that, when you put these alternates in, because they're looking at everything on a order of magnitude, I think. And it's hard to say what they're gonna do on bid day. So
They're gonna be aggressive as possible because they're trying to win the bid.
That's what I was thinking too, because
And
this is their
if
bread
they-
and butter.
If they try to say, well, are they gonna take it or not? If the next bidder gets as aggressive as possible on an alternate, they can lose the project
That's what
over
I'm
that, and they
thinking.
know that.
Don't
And that's-
forget too, if you, let's say that you bid the stage, for example, as an alternate, 2 classrooms on the end as an alternate, and then you decide not to do them now, but you could do them later. Still gonna cost the district more to do it later than it is within the scope of the project.
Right, but
So-
that was my whole
Well, and-
rationale. So-
Balancing need and fiscal responsibility are
Right, but if our district keeps getting better and better and better, and more people move here and the housing prices keep going up, because they are slowly going up, and like, just like the rest of the. What I'm saying is if the tax base goes up in the future and the housing market goes up, then there's gonna be, we're not gonna be in a low income district anymore. So there'd be more probably financing to,
there's a whole lot more that goes into that. But I will say that the townships and the borough, there's 4 municipalities that, are in the sending area. And the tax base from those 4 municipalities is extremely high already. And, if you recall, Liberty and Curtin Townships pay a different tax rate than Clinton County. So,
Right.
and it is higher. And so I just want you to keep in mind too.
but it's
that
all in the same
tax
pot,
base-
it's all the same pot.
It is in the same pot, but there's also, when you have a district that's as geographically large, you still have to look at some equity among the municipalities that are spread out across this 980 square miles. And that's just that's my Sugar Valley girl telling you, just because you're a rural site doesn't mean that you're any less important in what your needs are because of location. So I just want to make that point. I think that the people of that region deserve to have a quality elementary school there. I agree with you. We don't need some overpriced tool or an overpriced product here. We need to have something that's fiscally responsible that meets the needs of the people in the families in our community.
No, everyone agrees with you, I'm sure.
I still think, and if you're looking at adding to our tax base, there's not a lot of area in Lock Haven we can add to. Mill Hall's pretty much full. This is the area that people are gonna be starting to build in. I mean, I know they're limited because of the property of the dam, but this is the area people are gonna be building in because it's a bed and breakfast community
We hope so,
or state college.
we hope
So
so.
if we put in our grandiose building, we might draw some of those people that were thinking about living in Snowshoe or Milesburg down the valley a little bit and live this way, because the cost of living is a little bit cheaper this way. But also, it's only 20 miles or 20 minutes to stay called for them to work. And that's what we're turning into in Clinton County, a place where people are sleeping and.
We're
driving to
turning
work.
into the verb.
And as Jackie's
Suburban
pointed out
verb.
before, the research says, maybe Jeff can add on to this, but when you build a new elementary school, there is a draw. It is a
Oh,
draw for
Absolutely.
for new families and so on. And I think plus with that, just add that to what you said.
Another interesting piece to this is that there's a school up the road, not too far from this one, that has 85 kids in it. It's on the fence of what could happen. There's a good chance that could become a charter school at some point. And we know what that's gonna do to us. So there's a lot of these pieces in this that,
And
you
if
know,
a church builds and they have classes like Polly was saying. Private school, right there.
So there's two ways of looking at that, that they're gonna take our people anyway, or we can look at it as if we have a great school there, we have a great place there that people are proud of, they're gonna keep their kids there. I mean, there's trying to balance that out. Once again, it's
Right, I
like playing
agree
that
with you.
lottery, but I think there's a lot of potential if we don't do anything up here, or if we put something in there that they're not proud of, they may go elsewhere.
Oh, no,
So,
beside the building is beautiful. It doesn't look like an institutional building. And I hope I communicated it properly. It's, it's like a Renovo. You know, maybe
It's an
down-
institution like this building.
Oh, this is this gets the faux diamond award, okay, for being architecturally interesting. That's what it sounds
Well,
like.
But I wanna talk to that on 2 points. One is alternates and finishes.
Sure,
Again, I know I stressed it a couple times, but I want to hit it again. That lobby is 4% of the building. The rest of the building is essentially a flat roof structure.
it's right, we
And,
understand.
well, But the reason I want to note that is, we're working with another district right now that the reason we were brought in is the ability to bring a lower cost per square foot. A similar building with 2 classroom wings, not this exact configuration, but the whole building had sloped roofs over the entire classroom wings. So 80% of the building, even the gyms had sloped standing seam metal roofs. And surprisingly, the cost per square foot for the building was very high. And that was a much higher capacity building that should have had a separate cafeteria and gym. They didn't, they had to have it combined because they spent
All the
money on
money
the
else.
architecture. Here, we're trying to be very focused on a very small percentage of the building. We're also going to be in the next week or two, I'm actually in the process of scheduling with administration, we're going to go over finishes in the building.
Mhm.
So whether it's the flooring, do we not even have flooring? Do we have a sealed
Cement.
concrete like you've been doing in some of your other
It's
buildings?
beautiful.
I've had discussions with our team. They've shown me, we've gone through the preliminary renderings inside the building. And I said, I see a lot of tile. We're not using tile here, guys. It's peanut block. So you can have really dynamic spaces, but if it's just more painted concrete block. Yes, is it always nice to have tile on the floor or maybe terrazzo? Yes, those things are nice. But they're not half to half. So this is not a grandiose building. We're trying to make it have it be a nice looking building, but we're really trying to focus the dollars and scale back so that when the community does come in and says, wow, this is a fun place for the kids to be. There's a lot of color, but when you do look at the walls, wow, it's just painted CMU, it's sealed concrete floors, or the main lobby is a small area. So it's that balancing game.
I think those are things, painted block does not take away from I think the quality of the education.
No, it's just. but
Sometimes,
that's the other thing I hope you guys look into is, the cost of paint, as you know, is astronomical compared to where it was 15 years ago. If there's a wall surface that's not, plastic, but if there's something that doesn't need painting and just washable. So for the long-term maintenance costs, I mean, how much,
we have done that in the past with, you can do ground face block instead of, but really, it unfortunately just can't compare. The concrete
Okay.
block is the cheaper way to go. I don't want to say cheaper, more efficient.
even with the painting and I I know what she's saying on this, but I also know that we get some of that stuff like with where there was tile and stuff where you can't paint it. You gotta make sure that the finishes you're putting on that you can paint them in 20 years or 30 years. Because we know it's gonna change. We know that the needs or what people are gonna want is gonna change. Where, if you have a glazed tile or a piece of this laminated material where you really can't get anything to stick to it years down the road, that becomes
So you're
problematic.
happy with cement painting?
I think for our cost, I think it's where we're gonna,
Okay.
I think it's where we're gonna end up.
I'm not,
So even the cost of paint, I know paint's getting high, but it's probably still the most economical way to go.
And I think this
Sure.
is where you're fortunate as a district. Rob has been through many renovations and building projects, and I trust his opinion and judgment on that, and working with Brett, myself, and with Jeff to find things that are most fiscally responsible
No, of
without
course.
sacrificing things that you're saying are important, so.
You are
So-
gonna also see some alternates for flooring because of that discussion with sealed concrete. And then just one last thing on the note of the stage in the classrooms, I just want to note, and we've been saying this to all our clients right now. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we would never have recommended those as alternates. Alternates are normally finishes, maybe a higher warranty roof, additional playground equipment, things of that nature. They're nice to haves if the bids come in well. Just start thinking about this as a board, or in each of you as board members. While we make those two classrooms an alternate, they really, from the discussions we've had with staff, it really will help the district and they're needed. It's just, so they're not nice to haves, we need them, but if you have to reduce costs, that's.
how
the
will that
measures that you
impact
do.
you? If for some reason,
Really difficult, to be honest.
if you just sort of help me.
We may have to look at combining classrooms and grade levels. Space for our classes.
Okay.
Currently, that's a 2D design, where we have 2 of each grade level. If you cut off 2 of those classrooms, or at least 2 of those grade levels may have to.
But we also added some in recently because of thinking about the special education need, and right now the special ed numbers aren't warranting anything in the classroom for the upcoming.
Okay,
So for example, students with autism is on the rise in the nation and in our district. And so we've added autistic support classrooms across the district. Right now, it doesn't warrant fiscally adding another teacher in another classroom for the few number of students that need to be bused to the other autistic classroom. That could change next year,
sure.
but right now, we don't, like right now with today's numbers, we don't need it.
Okay.
Is it a need in the future? Possibly,
Possibly.
yes. Could we make it work without them? We could. Your question to him is valid. And we didn't just add them randomly because we thought it'd be really cool to have 2 extra rooms. When you think about the daily functions and what's going on, we thought that they would be necessary.
And we did delete rooms because we combined music and art, I believe.
Yeah.
It was separate rooms. We've already been down the road of
Everybody having their own
smashing
rooms,
it down.
now they're in shared rooms, so the more we pare down, the impact's gonna be there.
Okay,
The stage was an addition, and we're gonna revisit that conversation with you, and this is what you were saying to us as a group back then, when we were all kind of, in this design phase, early design. Let us know what you need, we don't wanna build a building that doesn't have what you don't need. And we said, could we go without a stage? The answer is yes, we could. That means we're gonna be moving bleachers in there or putting risers in there. Are those things we can do? Yeah, we can. But with having that stage, it changes the everyday, soft cost of work and workload and other things, and that stuff can damage the floor when it goes in and goes out. But do we absolutely have to have a stage? The answer is no. But what's the trade-off for it? So our thought was to bid the stage as an alternate, and I'd like to talk further with Jeff and Brett about 2 of those classrooms being bid as alternates as well.
And I've already spoken to my team, it wasn't a definite, but we are trying to plan around that.
And the team is the one who has met with all of the staff members and all those different groups to hear about their needs. And so trying to get everybody's input and put it in there with that kind of balancing.
Now, I don't want to be all negative, and we're not stripping everything out of the project. The advantage of having a very, square footage efficient main lobby down through the core. This space right here and here. It's an elementary, we still want it to be a playful environment. And
Absolutely.
That's what we're gonna be meeting with the administration, just not with fancy finishes. But you can do a lot with drywall and things like that. And we have been looking at some things that are playful. We haven't had a chance to meet the administration yet, so we're gonna vet it with them, you know,
Yeah.
first and then bring it all together.
That's the culture and how the kids feel and the staff feels in the building. To me, those are my personal priorities. That's how they feel, you know?
So
So that's where we
basically,
are
here's where we
today.
are. This is an update to you as a committee about what we've been working on. We've been working every month on different pieces and making sure all the different folks are involved. I want to let you know that Brett and I have planned, along with Rob, September 11th. For, I think that's a Monday evening, it aligns with the PTO meeting at Liberty Curtain. We shared with the folks there the last time we met that we would be giving them updates to the community through that we would be hosting that and having those updates. So we're planning to get that organized. It's my understanding, Jeff, that you have that date kind of holding in your calendar tentatively. You may be able to join us, and we'll share with them updates on the timeline, where we are with all of the design process and also the costs and so forth. And I think that the remaining discussion of the cost needs to go to the finance committee. And Joni has some information for you for finance committee about the different bond options and other things. So lots of discussion that had be had there before we move down that road.
May I ask one last question?
And we did budget too. I will just remind you that in the current year budget and beyond, we added a line item to pay additional bond payments. So we budgeted for the cost of a new building. And then, so I just wanted you to know, it's not gonna be like, oh, surprise, we need to figure out how we're gonna pay for this. We created a plan last year of how to pay for this.
Mhm.
Give them a question.
Question, yes.
Yeah.
See, now this is a serious question. If you had to send your child, grandchild, nephew, niece to a K through 12 school, what would you want to see different or similar to what you've done?
Okay, don't get that question every day.
As a parent or as
I
a-
think, well,
uncle.
okay, as a parent, I've got, so a little bit of background. I've got a 15-year-old and two 13-year-olds. I had the luck or not luck of renovating my children's school.
Oh, well, it's
6 years ago. And so when my children were in my district, the entire district we have a K2 building. We have a 3-5 building and then a 6-8 in the high school.
Campus. Campus pods.
And three of the 4 buildings are on the same campus. So I got to renovate the 3-5 building. And I say good and bad because my daughter then proceeded to tell me everything that was wrong with the building.
Well,
She was my
that'd
biggest
be
critic.
interesting to hear her perspective.
But I would say that this incorporates everything that we built in that school. We were trying to be very efficient. Because you have to be responsible to taxpayer, but you also need to make it a playful environment for the children.
Sure.
You want to have a lot of visibility, which we've talked about, the
You got
security
that.
aspect. You want it to be, environmentally friendly.
Yes.
But also for the air quality for the students, you want a lot of daylight brought into the space.
Mhm.
Because there's more than enough studies that show that
Absolute
improves
natural
quality of
light.
education.
Yep.
But you don't want to go fancy on, again, you want to focus the dollars and just creating the square footage for those educational spaces to create the classrooms. And it doesn't, you don't have to tile all the hallways or things of that nature. That's,
What does she
kids don't
want?
care about that stuff.
No, they don't. What does she want? If you don't mind me asking.
They like the big windows, they like
Okay,
the glass and space, their building's very similar to your layout. The library is right at the heart of the building.
so they like, okay.
Actually, that drove me nuts because the business manager for once actually told us to tear down a whole wing of the building so that we could put the library at the center of the building.
Oh.
And guess what? That's what the kids love the most is that core function is right at the heart of the
Thank
building
you.
instead of at end. So I think this is sort of best practices that we try to have in all our buildings. We don't always accomplish it. We have the ability to accomplish it more in new construction. And that was part of the reason that we didn't go the
Reno.
reno option
Sure.
direction was there were things that we weren't going to be able to accommodate in that building.
So say that's one of the reasons we chose your firm is your experience and your reputable work that precedes the work with these.
Right.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully I
Thank
tried
you
to
so
answer that
much.
question.
Anything else for this that we do have to?
Yes,
Up here.
so I'll wrap up and Bob, Jackie and Brad will follow from you guys. You guys have other stuff.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
I talk to Drew about every day, so.
I have to call him, I gotta leave.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everyone, yeah.
No, I can do
Skip
that.
back to number 2.
Yeah, I can do that quickly for you. So what you see on the 10-year draft, it's not something that we're gonna go over in great detail with you today about moving and, debating over these things. What I wanted to tell you is what you see. So what you see here is an updated list of projects. Some things are new to this list, some things are not new. And actually, the one part that's in bright yellow about the removable walls, moving the movable walls to permanent walls at Renova. We discussed that before as a safety issue.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, after our discussion with Jeff Straub about the Liberty Curtain building, and the stuff that Brett's not, like, the stuff that we learned in those conversations, our opinion of how much that's a safety issue has changed, and I didn't want to just take it off this plan without having that discussion with you as to why we don't believe that's a priority to make those to permanent walls and why. And so, but I left it on there, but if you're okay with us taking that off completely, I could tell you that if it stays on, it's just a priority that's gonna get moved so far down the list, but it probably will never get done. But I just don't think it needs to be on there after our discussion, and just wanted to check with you before we removed it.
Plus I have no idea that they did that. in the mall. Just the exact same building.
So they did the Mill Hall Renova the next year. And the staff decided they didn't want the walls closed in.
Well, and there's advantage to having it movable, because we have a larger grade level this year that we've added a paraprofessional to, so we, it's second grade, it says 25. 24 kiddos. So instead of 2 sections of 12, we have 1 section of 24 with a paraprofessional because of that grade level. If they were older kids, 24 would be reasonable. So again, it gives you flexibility in the future as these class sizes are kind of on the bubble of 1 or 2 sections. Opening it up for a larger space is actually better than the permanent walls.
That's what the discussion was back then, that's why we didn't do it then. We left it, the teachers had the same feeling.
Well, there was a
But the
safety
fact
audit.
that-
We can't lock this down, so we can go in between. But again, what are the odds of that? I can't tell you it's never gonna happen, but the odds of that happening, the expense to give up the advantage may not be worth.
I think that,
Yeah.
takes a 5, 6 pod, I think that was the most. It's area that was most diverse, and they usually move the wall back. I think
They currently have 1 classroom, they do 6th grade, they're about 30 class.
I think that's where they found it, most that's where they left it.
I think that probably a better use of than doing removing the removable walls would be looking at talking with somebody like Jeff that really understands how these flows and some of that are, and we could do it better with doors, some automation of locks, some
But again, you're talking
mechanical
about a whole
holds.
lot of extra
Yeah,
expense.
down the road, but
Where does it come in the
that-
priority? of
right, it's
everything
not
else
in-
that's on here? I
it's
don't
not
see
on the
it.
priority list, but I just removing those walls, it seems like a huge expense that we could do with some other means, some other way. I think we're pretty good up there with what we have. We have the lockdown thing figured out. They know where to go. And once again, the probability is very low. We planned the best we can, but
That's what we get.
Well, when you look at everything else on this entire list.
that's
I
my,
mean, we have $60 million or more of projects on here. I would say it's.
I worry more about how to keep the buildings cool and warm than I do those pieces, because that has a higher probability of closing the school than stuff like that.
So if there's no objections, I'll take that off of when we get to the final copy. What I'd like you to do as committee members is find some time to look over this. I know you only had it for a couple days and it's a lot of information. Seems like every time Joni and Rob and I sit down and look at it, we're moving something and we can debate it either way and move it either way or whatever. Most importantly is what's in the next current year and next year out those are really where you want to put your focus. The other stuff can always move because again, we ask the board to approve this plan approximately every 6 months. So this is the next draft version, and that is a document. You all have access to that document. At the bottom, there's a different tab. So if you ever want to go back and compare where we were to where we are,
We don't have the tabs.
yes,
on
you
board.
do. You are all shared into this the Google Doc.
I'm
This is a
fine.
PDF that you're seeing, but of the news draft, but you all have access to the 10-year plan document in Google Docs.
Oh, in Google Docs. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said board docs last time. I was like, I
It's
can't
in-
find it.
It's in Google Docs, and at the bottom, you can see all the different
Right,
iterations.
okay, my fault.
So what
Google
we,
Docs.
so what we
Got it.
do, this is the tab farthest to the left. This is the one we've been currently working on. I'd like to probably September or October, get this doc to the full board for an updated board approval, which is why your most important task is to look at current year and next year. If you look at current year, the key things in there, really the Woodward Playground and a lot of the other projects are already underway. That's about all we have the capacity to do right now with the addition of the Liberty Curtain project.
Say, when I look through this today, looks like a lot of these things we've already talked about. They're either started or they will be starting soon.
And again, we updated, I think, Jeff, this is a question you asked me in preparation for the meeting. Did you talk to the principals? Did you talk to the principals about the stuff in their buildings? And the answer is yes. They weighed in again on the updated plan and reprioritized things. One of the areas I will tell you that really has come to more sense of urgency, and Dave Peters is here. The family consumer science room at Central Mountain Middle School
Oh,
is
it's
in
horrible.
really, really bad shape.
Horrible.
And actually, Dave, you
Horrible.
mind sharing your conversation with
One of
Nick
my
about the
lines.
comparison of the FCS rooms?
I would say like, obviously, I spent last 5-6 years at the middle school, and so, which I think you did a walkthrough with us there a couple of years ago when we went through the building, but, they were the same when I went to school there a long time ago. I talked to others that went there prior to me. The space is just a highly utilized space, and, our setup at the middle school is way out. I would say what is going on here at the high school, they have one room that has 2 stoves and 2 light bulbs, which is about half of what we have. So definitely, I think what's going on in the high school needs to be addressed. There are some options that we talked about internally, but middle school definitely is one that is way outdated. I refer to it as grandma's kitchen.
I wouldn't eat anything out of that kitchen. It's so disgusting. It's not your fault.
The public
Yeah,
meeting.
It's not your fault. I'm sorry, you're right, but it is. Thank you for bringing this up. Appreciate it.
Who has the best FCS room in the district? Blacktail. Blacktail.
Should we take that stuff and bring it down here?
Did it internal work.
I made it so that stuff from down there won't fit down here, because it's a smaller room down here, so his stuff
Which
is
will
locked,
all-
his is
it'll all be
locked
gone.
up there.
The Foxtel room was done over what, a year, 2 years ago,
So,
and it was the original from 1968.
Yeah.
So it was redone.
So-
The question I had about the high school for the family consumer science. Is there as much a need for it here when we have Vinnie's class with culinary?
there is, because there are 2 different sets of curriculum, they have 2 different sets of needs, that, it's like, commercial, and culinary is more of a business oriented, running your business, running a restaurant versus what you would do in a home as a consumer, being a wise consumer in your own home.
Makes sense.
And
I didn't
so
know,
it
that's why I was
is-
asking.
It's a great question, that some people ask that a lot. Now, that doesn't mean with their certifications that they can't cross over and teach, and sometimes we try to use that space for efficiency, yes. But the reality is, family consumer science should not go away. And I think that that's part of their, curriculum and it's state standards, and you just can't wipe it out. So I feel that they should be priorities in the next 2 years for you, is my recommendation. And again, for both buildings, I feel like, maybe one before the other. I don't know. That's gonna depend if we want to do it internal. Can we do it internal under the bid threshold like we did the other one? Can we, we're gonna work through it. But I would say to you, instructionally, those rooms are things that need to be addressed, as well as the science rooms at the middle school. A lot of sinks in those science rooms are old, a lot of leakage, things under those things that are gonna cause us some other issues if we don't address it. So from my perspective, moving forward, those are some things that are kind of higher on the list than maybe used to be before. But in general, you shouldn't see anything on this list that is a huge surprise to you. Is again, we try to update this every 6 months. Keep it on the horizon, what's coming to help you make better decisions along the way, short term and long term. So if you have other questions that you don't have burning right now, if you have a burning question, I'll try to take it, but I really, for the sake of time, if you could email your questions to us. Rob, Joni, Wanda, and I will go over those in our weekly meeting, and then if we need to touch base with any of the principals, we'll go back to them. But when you guys tell me that you're ready to move this forward for board approval and update, again, it's a roadmap. And I'll just reiterate this, just because it's on the 10-year plan doesn't mean you committed to do the project. You still have full control over any project that goes forward to fruition.
That's very helpful. I did have, I'm sorry, I don't
Give us
really,
a guide.
the only thing that was taken care of, that's my big check. And the other one was, Central Mountain Middle School tennis courts. It just seems like crap repair. Those kids are gonna use it this year. They use it all the time for gym class or physical ed class or.
Yeah, I also just became aware of some new cracks down here too, that's
That's
gonna
what
get moved up on that thing too.
Just, yeah,
I-
dovetail them together.
I did have the people out that looked at this. I'm waiting for the price back for this and Bucktail for the resurfacing or to make repairs and recoat them.
They didn't
We-
check the middle school one,
Well, we haven't done a lot in middle school because it's not as high a priority as what
but
these
the cracks.
competition was.
I'm telling
The
you.
question
people
becomes
use
on those is what do we need for the gym class? And we're trying to balance out.
And the batons, the girls use it, or I shouldn't say girls, I'm sorry.
But can they use a different area? What can we do differently? Because obviously we're
They
looking at
use it
dollars.
every day for gym class, or when the grass is wet, I'm just telling you.
I know they do, but they do it because it's a nicety, because it is there. But is it a higher priority than fixing a rooftop unit that's here that's
I'm
gonna
just
have no
saying.
heat?
Fix
that-
the cracks, if you're gonna get a bid and get an estimate for the ones here versus here, just have them go to the Center Mountain Middle School,
It's additional cost and.
just to get a bit, just to get it.
Do we need it is the question. And that's been the question of the principals.
I think we should say that. It's maybe a discussion.
You're absolutely right. But it's on, and your asphalt maintenance plan.
There are 2 other items on the agenda here, which I think hopefully we can quickly. Rob parking lot project update. Last I was down there days ago and it looks like
Curb,
they had it all.
it's supposed to be curb tomorrow. Fingers crossed, they're supposed to be curb Monday. Now they're saying curb tomorrow, saying they're paving on Friday. They're paving Bald Eagle Street Friday also, I believe. But they understand that they have to be done before the teachers come back and, they got held up a couple of weeks at the beginning with a permit. They got called on, said it needed or whatever, that should be 2 weeks ahead of schedule, but they were pushed back a little bit, but
The
He tells me-
Bald Eagle Street, were we paving that or?
yeah, the town is.
Okay,
So-
Did the same company doing both?
Nah, but we're coordinating for the tie-in and everything. They're trying to get a nice tie-in there. They did the milling. Still scheduled, weather dependent. We're supposed to be done before school starts. Working out some alternate things as far as where we can park teachers for in-service and stuff. And Tyler and I been in constant communication just to try and keep the logistics out.
But hopefully it'll be done in a week.
Well, I thought they would be putting curb down Monday too, and the machine's sitting there and nobody's there, so. But once again, you can only push on these contractors so hard and, they understand. I have thousands of emails, but, I can only push them so hard.
Show up.
Yeah, so. The next thing we have on our list and Bucktail locker room, you saw the design came back from the architect. I'm trying to push this through the whole design stuff with the mechanical, electrical, plumbing guys. I asked to have this back by September 5th so that I could have a price for you for the September board meeting. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I'm pushing pushing, everybody keeps telling me 3 weeks, they need 3 weeks. Well, 3 weeks has gotten me to today. And I said, guys, I said, I need to get this done. I said, my first basketball game is October 31st. I want to use it. We do have a contingency plan. We've taken the upstairs and we've made it usable, with some limitations with ADA. Most basketball players aren't going to be ADA players. If they do have somebody that has that, we'll utilize the nurse's office or something. But pushing on this thing daily. I've met with the architects, I've met with the code office, I've met with everybody. But once again, I can only push these people so hard, and it seems like I can't get it through, but if I can get something back for you after the workshop, I haven't asked Jackie that yet because I just got that from these guys, but if I get it back after the workshop, do you want that price for this locker room on it? If we send it out to the committee?
Yes.
What changes do you have? You're a window in the storage area.
And move the office so they can see people walking in and out of the bathroom.
The problem with doing some of this was we were trying to keep everything the same size as what the boys did to meet the Title IX regs. So we moved this over to this side to do that.
I don't feel comfortable someone not seeing the entrance and exit of the doors when you could just flip the office to the other side. And then why is that bathroom there?
Because it meets, the plumbing and everything is over there.
And who's the bathroom for?
It's in the coach's office. There's one but there's one in the boys. So if we have it, what's in the boys, but don't have it in the girls, we're in a Title IX violation. So
Do they have to have a bathroom for the coaches?
Doesn't
What-
matter whether they have to or not. You
We've
want to
al-
meet the title.
You know what, I'm actually
So
being
we
serious.
have to take it out of the boys
Yeah.
if that's the case.
Fine. I say the safety is, here, let me show you, Dr. Martin, what I'm talking about. When they're walking, and then I want you to see two things, when they're walking in and the glass and the office should be there instead. So there's not a dead space there.
Thank you for that, and we'll discuss it.
Thank you. Yeah, please show, I mean, it may not be the right thing, it may not, but I just, first thing that popped into my head when I saw that.
We did look at the extra door out of
Basically,
it.
leaving the office where it's at.
No, the office would go into the storage room so they.
The office currently is for.
Yeah,
Very current. Yeah.
but it's small, it's way
But, you know,
smaller.
Smaller,
Yeah,
yes.
be bigger and you see, you have windows there so you can see people coming in and out. I just don't feel comfortable at blind spot. But that's, okay, I'm done. Thank you.
That would fix the restroom also because there's a restroom in that office. but-
Yeah, it just, well, the restroom is right against that wall where the windows would go.
Yeah,
Uh,
we walk in the door, they can turn the, take the restroom back in,
Thank you.
in that office, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm done. Appreciate it.
So.
it's an interesting thought. I didn't think about windows there because I'm thinking a locker room. We're trying to keep windows out so people can't see in. I'm thinking, does it create a spot where they can actually see into the locker room?
windows
That's
there
your
now.
thing.
Look at- You walk in the door.
I hadn't thought about windows in that. I thought about the door going out. But I can definitely,
Thank you.
I'll talk to Dr. Martin a little bit,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to see if I get the price back in time. Do you guys want that or?
I do, but I'm one of 9.
I want it done,
Moving the
but
office- the office.
We want, yeah, it's like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 6
There's
years
already
ago.
restroom.
I thank you, Rob.
it's a size thing
So
with the
basically,
Title
store-
IX
this
stuff.
Storage here and office here. Yeah, but it's already there.
And it has to be.
We'll take a look at it. If it's an easy
This is what's
fix.
existing.
Yeah.
This is very
So
small.
you're gonna just take the, swap the office and the storage.
I had originally designed where this was. We were renovating that office out. But I went with this with that Title IX.
I just say that.
We'll take a look at it.
You guys will look at
When
it.
we get some of the reno over there, coaches' offices aren't as necessary as they used. to be.
The open space concept
It
is much,
realistically is a health and phys ed office, is what you're doing, and you have multiple teachers in the building, and so just being thoughtful of that as well, because there are coaches in different seasons and who's utilizing that office.
Where is George's office currently?
Just classroom.
He has a classroom, so he doesn't even have an office in the boys locker room.
Yeah,
So
that's,
we may not even need an office in there.
if we get rid of the other one.
That's kind of what I think
The
coach's
open
office is
space
kind of
and
thing.
storage. Oh my God,
Someday you may
storage.
have an office there.
There's never enough storage. Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll take a look at that. Okay,
I just
so.
wanna make sure there's a contingency and plan for football season, they use that locker room.
Yeah, we have the upstairs one, we're boxing the floor this week. They have all the showers are working, they have toilets working, petitions are in, so we're good. He's notified all the other coaches if there's anything with ADA, I think we're good.
And
Last I
what-
talked
they
to him.
benefit, and there's also, they're showering in the other locker room if they want, right?
They can shower up there,
Oh,
we
they can
have showers
shower.
up there working.
What Rob was saying to me is now that it's cleaned out, it actually, when we're done with the locker room contingency plan, that it actually can be used for multiple other purposes potentially, and so, I think in the long run. Yeah, and maybe if that's storage, like it's been storage, and if that's what we're gonna use it for, do we need as much storage boxed off in the lower room? I don't know, but we'll look at other uses for that for efficiency when we're done with the contingency plan.
Right.
So I guess, I'm sorry, I had to take a call from the solicitor. Did you want me to move this 10-year plan forward minus the removable wall component in September, or do you still want to come back and discuss it here and send it forward in October?
I want to discuss it.
Let's put it on.
Thank you,
Put
Judge.
it in.
Yeah, I don't think it really impacts anything we're trying to do or what have you at this point,
Because you got your things going.
we've got a lot of stuff going.
Next meeting will be September 9th.
So move to committee September, if you could please send me your comments ahead of time so that we can be prepared to address them,
I promise I will.
and
I won't use too many words.
That's hard.
Here, look,
That was a
you'll,
freebie.
you'll like this one, Elizabeth.
The
There-
two word
there-
to work.
There's the, what they did, and that's the Rob cafeteria. That's an aerial thing of it. Yes, get down and look at that, you'll love it.
actually, did you go downstairs last week?
She
to
did
see
see
the
downstairs.
CTC floor, did you guys see it?
Yes.
It's really
So
nice.
it's, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to hear about vinyl tile. Don't
That-
ever say don't ever use the B
It
word.
looks better in pictures because there's so many different concretes down there,
Is
but
that a
it,
drone?
no, that's our security camera. I just
Oh,
brought it up so
I
you
don't
can
know
see
if you
it.
should be showing people that.
You can see it, you're in a meeting,
All right,
but
great.
we're gonna,
That is so.
yeah, they're putting the vinyl baseboard on it now.
Careful driving your car. you know.
I've been told.
It looks like something from NASA.
Something I heard of.
You have to get down and see it, it looks good.
Yeah.
I need a drink. Where can I get a drink?
Somebody else in the.
I mean, like
Jerky.
water or.
I don't know,
Is there a
there's
machine?
machine,